Hello everyone, welcome to another movie review. So normally I review one movie a month, at most like two. I'm reviewing 5 today. So let's just cut the shit and get right into it. I'm talking about the Final Destination movies. For those that don't know, it is a franchise about disasters that happen and kill a bunch of people, but one person who is in the disaster gets a premonition, a vision of the future, helps them avoid this disaster. And then throughout the course of the rest of the movie, death is catching up to the people who avoided the disaster. And in that little brief explanation, I just described all of these movies. Like, they follow the exact same formula. Most people remember these movies specifically for the opening disaster scenes. There's a pretty popular YouTube video that's literally just the 5 disaster scenes right back to back. Like, I think a lot of people, when they talk about these movies, their discussion begins and ends with the disaster scene and nothing else. So let's change that, and I'm going to talk about the whole movie, all 5 of them. So we start off with the first movie, and it opens on a bunch of college kids who are going on a field trip, right? They're going to France. And I actually really like this opening, partially because there's no real, like, foreshadowing. Like, there's no, like, sinister tone. You know, most movies would have the opening be, like, really dark and foreboding to, like, foreshadow what's about to happen, but I kind of like this approach to it where they're just acting like college kids. You know, there are even some jokes in this opening. I like it because it's the kind of thing that would happen in real life. And then, of course, we get the plane crash scene. It's actually a plane explosion. So then he freaks out on the plane, gets a bunch of people taken off the plane, and then, of course, the plane explodes in midair. So the police are obviously questioning him. They're like, how the fuck did you know it was going to explode? And then we actually get a actually good scene. Like, I was surprised at a lot of the scenes in this movie because I was sort of expecting, probably because I had the later films in mind. When I was watching this one, I was expecting just, you know, schlocky trash. And that is it to an extent, but there are actually some good, well-done scenes here. Like when the main character, Alex, Devon Sawa, is looking at news reports of the crash, the explosion, sorry. And I think Devon Sawa does a good job of, like, conveying the emotion of, you know, losing basically everyone you knew in your class.
You are looking at the first piece of debris to wash ashore from Volé Air Flight 180, which erupted shortly after a 9:25 p.m. takeoff from John F. Kennedy Airport in New York. There are no known survivors. However, Coast Guard and naval search and rescue efforts are continuing at this moment, even as jet fuel burns on the ocean surface. Authorities are pessimistic about the possibility of finding anyone alive from the ill-fated flight. All 287 passengers are feared dead.
And then we get the funeral scene, and then we get the funeral scene, which is also pretty good. You know, I like the subtle character stuff. Yeah, subtlety in a fucking Final Destination movie. It's actually pretty good. Although I do have to say this, a criticism I have of this movie is a lot of scenes look like a shitty teen sitcom, like Degrassi, or I'm mainly thinking of Degrassi. Like, just something about the way that it's shot and the exposure and the soft focus, it really just looks like a TV show. It really just kind of looks like Dawson's Creek. I've never even seen that show, but that's what it reminds me of. So Alex starts to put things together. So then one of his friends is in his bathroom, and due to a series of coincidences, accidentally chokes himself on his laundry line. I'm gonna be honest, right up front, I think this is the most effective death in the whole series. Now that's a big claim. The reason I think so is partially because there's no blood. Like, especially in later movies, and I'll get to this when I talk about them, they would just like throw in blood for the fun of it. Like, even deaths that didn't really justify having blood. This one, the lack of blood makes it feel more real. You know, later in the series, we'll see the deaths get more and more cartoonish and silly, but I think this one is really the best when it comes to like actually scaring you. So then they start to realize that death is coming for them again, in the order in which they would have died if they were on the plane. Then they meet William Bloodworth, who is a recurring character in the series. By recurring, I mean he's in 3 of the movies. He should have been in every movie. I'll get more into that later, but I really like this character. I like that it's not that like he's death. You know, a lot of people say like, oh, William Bloodworth is death. He's the Grim Reaper, whatever. I like it better, and it's my headcanon that he is not death. He just knows about death somehow. Because I like death being this invisible thing that will just come after you. I don't really like it if it's a guy. And I do like that the movies leave it ambiguous for you so that you can interpret it either way.
Death. There are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail. Every single move we make, from the mundane to the monumental, the red light that we stop at or run, the people we have sex with or won't with us, the airplanes that we ride or walk out of. It's all part of death's sadistic design, leading to the grave.
And then we get another scene I like, where the asshole bully character is like,
I mean, what's the fucking point, right? Me and Terry, we'll be back together on the other side. So why wait any longer? Carter, what are you doing? Carter, slow down. Slow down, Carter! Fuck you!
parks his car on the train tracks. It leads to a nice, like, close call moment where he realizes he doesn't want to fucking die. They manage to pull him out. I guess it's at this point where I should acknowledge that, like, this is something that will stick throughout the rest of the movie, where they're clearly trying to go for, like, a shock death, but they always telegraph it so hard.
Then you can just drop fucking dead.
You're dead! You're dead!
I don't think there's a single instance in this whole series where a death genuinely caught me off guard. And then if I do have one criticism of the movie, is that this whole climax scene is a little contrived and I didn't really care at this point. It's sort of inconsequential because nothing really happens in it. You know, the whole thing is like, oh, you think the characters are going to die, but they all make it out. So, you know, nothing changes. So it doesn't really progress the plot forward at all. But then what I do like is they cut to 6 months later where they think they've beaten it for some reason. Like, at least in later movies, when they think they've beaten it, they have some reason. Here they're just like, oh, we beat it. You know, we don't have to worry about death anymore. But obviously they do. Alex pieces together that it's still coming for them. And the bully character gets hit by a sign.
I told you were next. It just skipped me. So who's next?
It's a little cheesy, but it's a fine enough ending. So Final Destination 1 is actually a pretty good movie. It's the only one out of these movies that I would say is genuinely good. Like, unironically, like if you're looking for something actually good, you should watch Final Destination 1. None of the other movies I would recommend unless you're a fan of the first one and want to see more of it. It does have problems. It is a bit too much like teen drama-y. You know, I've talked some about the problems of the movie, but I think overall, it had a lot of good ideas with some subpar execution, and I think it's a good movie. So let's move right along to Final Destination 2, which everyone remembers for the disaster scene, which in this one is a traffic jam. It's a pile-up, you dumbass. I was just sitting here editing the fucking video, and I had like a visceral reaction to how stupid I am. A traffic jam is what happens on your commute to work. That's not what happens in this movie. It's a pile up. Yeah. Just wanted to throw this in here. It's a traffic... I almost said it again. It's not a traffic jam. It is a pile up. Thanks, enjoy the video. I do like this scene, but I feel like it is a little repetitive. Like, it's just like people run into things or blow up. You know, I feel like it could have been a little more inventive. I can't really give it shit, though, because I think everyone can relate to thinking of this scene whenever you drive behind one of those log trucks. So the same sort of thing happens. She stops a bunch of people from getting on the highway, and they're all gonna die. We get sort of the first death scene that's basically a joke, where this guy, due to a series of contrivances, sets his house on fire. You think he's gonna make it out, but then he trips and falls on some pasta that he threw out of the window at the start of the scene. And then he's like, oh, whatever, I'm fine. And then the ladder comes down, and it stops, and he's like, oh, thank fuck. And then it comes down all the way. It is like a punchline. So they reveal that Alex, the main character of the last movie, died off screen. He died when a brick fell on his head. Clear Rivers, she's the only survivor. Which, I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, normally I would be against killing off a main character off screen. But in this series where death is such a common occurrence, I feel it kind of fits. And I think bringing back Clear was a good idea to sort of connect the two movies. I think a problem I have with 3, 4, and 5 is that they just feel totally disconnected, apart from a few brief references to like some characters. But in part 2, they bring back Clear, which gives it a direct tie to part 1. And I thought that was nice. So our main character convinces Clear to leave a mental hospital, which she locked herself in because she didn't want to die. I thought this was a little too quick. Like, I would have liked if Clear coming to the realization that she should leave the mental hospital, you know, not live in fear. I think that should have been like a bigger arc for her, because after she leaves, she doesn't really have much to do. And then we get to the biggest missed opportunity of the whole series. There's a dentist scene, and I did not remember this scene. So when I first saw it, I was like, fuck no. I was seriously considering just skipping it and moving on to the next scene. But I eventually decided to just, you know, tough through it, whatever. And it's just like something gets stuck in his mouth. Like, is that the best you could have done to make a scene where whenever someone goes to the dentist, they would think about this scene? But no, it's sort of a red herring because he survives the dentist but then gets crushed. Notice though how I'm not naming characters. Like, I actually remember Max and Clear from the first movie. Granted, those are the only names I remember. I don't think they were particularly strong characters, but at least I remember their names. I don't remember any of the blank slates that are in this movie's names. So then they all meet together and tell everyone what's going on. A lady gets decapitated by an elevator moving up. Pretty good scene. And then we get actually a really good scene that I actually enjoy. It builds on sort of the ideas from the first movie where one of the characters tries to kill himself. Since he's not next in line to die, the gun jammed.
Don't do it!
I ain't gonna like that.
Hey, you know. Hey!
On my terms.
Oh my God!
You with me, Opa?
God!
It is a really good scene, really powerful too. It is the best part of this movie. I mean, maybe excluding the traffic jam. It's not! So then there's some stupid stuff that happens. Lear dies, and then the main character realizes that she has to die. So she drives an ambulance over a cliff and into some water. So then they say that she was dead, like legally dead. Her heart stopped for a few minutes, but she was revived. And they both assume, the two characters assume that means they've beaten it, but it is left a little ambiguous because someone explodes. So that was Final Destination 2. It tries to be as genuinely good as the first one, but apart from the suicide scene that I mentioned, it doesn't come to the same heights. It's fine. I feel like it's in this uncomfortable period where it's like, it's not as silly and goofy fun as the later Final Destination movies, but it's not as genuinely good as the first one. So it's in this awkward middle period. So Final Destination 3, this one starts off with a bang. Everyone's at Carnival, and they go on a roller coaster, and it crashes. We get a really funny match cut where they cut from two burning tanning beds to two caskets. That's fucking hilarious. A little problem I have, there's this one scene where they're in a fast food place. They're going through the drive-thru, and you think a truck is about to crash into them and they're gonna die. But then they make it out, but then you realize the person in front of them was actually the one next in line to die. And so it's like a shock. Oh, this character was a total prick and an asshole during the whole opening scene and in every scene they're in, but then they just die in a way that's not really satisfying because we didn't know it was them until they had already died. So it's like, what was the point? I probably won't mention a lot of scenes in this movie, but for some reason I was enjoying my time with this one. I think this one just embraced the silliness a bit. So then we get this Glenn Howerton looking motherfucker who is doing his job at a hardware store and is telling them basically that they're full of shit.
People die. That's just part of life. 150,000 people a day, actually. You know, I mean, we're biological entities, and death is just the end of biological function. It's as simple as that.
But then he's convinced otherwise when his coworker dies. And then we get to the climax of the movie where, you know, a bunch of stuff happens. You think they're gonna die. Glenn Howerton is gonna kill them, but then a thing falls on him. I really don't like this climax. I was enjoying the movie up until this point, but the climax just sort of happens. The characters don't do anything to like save the day or solve the problem. It's just, you know, a thing falls on the main villain and that's it. Oh, I forgot to mention at the end there's the subway crash and everyone dies. It wasn't taking itself as seriously as part 2. We're not quite into part 5 territory where every death is just a big joke. You know how I said part 2 was uncomfortably in the middle between silly fun and serious horror? This it's the perfect mix between the silliness of part 5 and the seriousness of part 1. I wouldn't call it like a good movie, but I had a fun enough time watching it. So then we get to the Final Destination, or as it's technically called, The Final Destination, because this was supposed to be the last movie. They made another one in a shorter amount of time than any of the other sequels. So anyway, The Final Destination already you can tell the difference in philosophy with this one. Normally it takes like a good 10 minutes for the opening disaster to actually happen. Here it happens instantly. They're already at the fucking race car track. They're playing Shinedown music, and I'm taken back to like 2008. So naturally a bunch of stuff happens. It's bad. And then he leads a bunch of people out and saves them. And then as they're outside, someone fucking dies. I guess I should mention this because this whole movie is plagued by one major issue. It was filmed in the midst of the 3D craze. And naturally it's in 3D. And it is really obnoxious. I'm surprised they didn't have someone playing fucking ping pong. All the characters are caricatures. Like one character has a lucky coin. You know, one thing I found funny was that one of the characters is just called racist. That's what they're credited as. You know, I was in one of the Final Destination movies. Oh, sweet. What character did you play? Racist? But what's even more fucked up about it is that the character has a name. When he dies, they give him a name. There's a news report and they're like, so-and-so died. You could just credit him by his name. Speaking of the racist, his death scene is actually kind of fun. It's clear we're going straight up for comedy. Something I wish the rest of the movie would have done, because the rest of the movie is trying to go for horror. It's sort of tongue-in-cheek horror, but it's never to this point where it's just a comedy, which is what I wanted. So a bunch of shit happens. I feel like in this movie, they just move from scene to scene with no real progression. You know, a lot of people compare this series to Saw. I feel like this one is the closest to like a shitty Saw sequel, where it just moves from death to death. There's no real plot progression or anything. It's just sort of things happening. The whole climax is really contrived. I don't really care for it. It's just like, oh, so this whole 10 minutes was for nothing? Great. They do the same death as the first movie where someone just gets hit by a car. I hate when they do this death. It just reeks of being uncreative, and it's never satisfying. And here they do it twice.
Deja vu. My wife said that deja vu is like God's way.
Yeah, this really does remind me of a Saw sequel. Like when this girl just gets eviscerated by rolling gears. It's like, that's something straight out of a Saw movie. They roll it back. It's all safe. You know, happy ending until he realizes, oh, what if we were supposed to make it out and we're going to die right now? And what do you know? They die right now. So that was Final Destination 4. I failed to mention the scene where the dude gets his asshole sucked out of a pool's drainage system, which of course is peak cinema, really. Better than Cube. I don't like this movie. It's so visually obnoxious with the 3D shit. In the other movies, the characters aren't great, but they're characters. Here it's just like, who are these fucking bland pieces of wood that are in front of me right now? Like, at least the main characters looked different in every fucking movie up until now. The less we say about the Final Destination, the better. So then we get to part 5. The only one of the Final Destination movies I saw in theaters. Saw it with Christian when I was like 10 or 11. Way too young to be seeing it, but whatever. In what would turn out to actually be the Final Destination. I actually like this opening. Here there's a bunch of references to previous deaths with like objects that were involved in previous deaths falling and breaking through glass. They sort of did this in the last movie because they thought that was going to be the last one, where they had a bunch of deaths from the previous movies in X-ray form. It's really at this point where you can tell they're just having fun with it. This sort of does suffer from the Final Destination problem, where all the characters are bland as fuck. But I think I give this one a pass, and you'll see why. So the disaster happens, so everyone dies except for one girl, which I really like, because for the past 4 movies it's been the exact same formula. And here, it's a little twist. You know, one of the characters is not going to die. And I like that sort of little twist. So the police interrogate him because they're like, how the fuck did you know that? That's another thing with 2, 3, and 4. It's like, where were the police in all of this? You know, in the first one, it was a big deal. I guess the second one, the cops did care, but I just felt like the cops in that movie, they went along with this whole death is coming for us thing a little too quickly. But in this movie, we're back to cops actually doing their jobs. I think this movie's going for a little bit more of the seriousness of part one, and it falls flat. It's so boring. Then we get to this movie saving grace, the death scenes. You remember in part two, the scene with the ladder falling on the guy, where I said it was basically a punchline? That's all the deaths in this movie. They're all fucking punchlines. They set up a convoluted thing to happen, and you're like, oh no, it's this thing. Oh no, it's this thing. Oh no, it's this thing. And then the deaths are just like blunt and brutal. They're all anti-climaxes, but in the perfect, like, comedic way. They're clearly just making it a joke, and it's really fun to watch. This is what I was talking about a little. Why is there blood here? This would have been 10 times scarier if she just like landed on her head and broke her neck. Like, you didn't need to add blood to this death, you know. But my point still stands that this was an entertaining death scene. Oh man, we get the classic acupuncture scene.
Yo, Buddha, slow down on the rice cakes. Hey, there's a fire!
It's a joke. It's a comedy set piece. And then they run into William Bloodworth, who for some fucking reason hasn't been in any of the movies since part 2. A big problem I have with 3 and 4 is that they're just like, fuck it. They feel so disconnected from all the other ones. Because it's like, okay, you can't bring the characters back, whatever. Bring back William Bloodworth. He's like, he would make perfect sense to be a recurring character in the series, but he's only in the first 2, then fucks off for a while. He does do a voice for like the demon on the roller coaster in part 3, but that doesn't count. And then he's totally absent from part 4, and then he's just back in part 5. Where did he go? You know, it was a real big missed opportunity. And then we get the eye surgery scene, which this is sort of what I wanted the dentist scene from part 2 to be, because it does make me uncomfortable. So then they discover that if you kill someone, you gain their life. So like, if someone was going to live another 50 years and you were only going to live 1 more year, if you killed that person, you would now live 50 years. You would take that person's lifespan. They figure this out when one of the guys accidentally murders one of his co-workers, and he's like, he's fine. He doesn't have to worry anymore. Something a little weird though is there's like so many different rules in all of these movies, and it's like the rules are consistent in the movies, but not like across the series. Like in part 3, there's this whole thing about the pictures they took at the festival, and it's like they foreshadowed the way in which all the characters are gonna die, and it's like, okay, why does that never come back in any of the other movies? It's almost as if this series wasn't thought out, wasn't carefully planned from the start. We actually get a pretty good climax. One problem with this series is that all of the climaxes have been pretty bad. I think this is the best climax to any of the movies, where one of the characters talks about how he was about to push a lady into a truck.
Peter, what did you do?
No, I didn't. I couldn't.
But then he turns into mustache twirling villain when he's like, you deserve it, lady who survived the disaster. Because you survived the disaster, you have a long lifespan. I'm gonna kill you, take your lifespan, and live. It's sort of like the ending of part 3, but done well, where the characters actually solve the problem and stop the villain instead of just a thing falling on him. I haven't mentioned this, but the main character has some really goofy expressions throughout the whole movie. It's really weird. He's hamming it up. So then we get to the ending, which is the best thing ever. So they board a plane, right? And they're like, oh man, I can't wait to go to France. And then someone across the aisle, a kid, starts freaking out, saying that he got a vision that the plane is going to explode.
A kid had a panic attack and wanted off the plane. He said he had some kind of vision.
No.
And it's at this point we reveal that the whole movie took place in the year 2000, and it was actually a prequel to the first movie. In retrospect, it's really obvious when you see like the people are using fucking flip phones. It's a legitimately good twist. I love this twist. It's a perfect way of literally bringing the series full circle. Like the whole series is a loop. You know, I love this. It's such a good twist. So naturally they die in the explosion, and then the guy who accidentally killed his coworker, talking to a different coworker, and he's like,
Company did an autopsy for insurance purposes. Turns out Roy had an enlarged blood vessel in his brain so big, he's about to burst. They said he'd be dead any day now.
Which means, of course, that he's gonna die any day now. They leave off on, like, the best line to close out the series.
Life's a bitch.
And then they end with a montage of every death from the entire series. A lot of the movie is boring sort of drama, but the things this movie does right, it does amazingly right. You know, if 1 is a legitimately good movie, 5 is legitimately good schlock. Like, it knows exactly what it is. It just wants to have some fun, and it's good fun. It's such a perfect ending to the whole series. You know, everything. The twist, the last line, literally ending on a montage of all the deaths. It's just a perfect way to end the series. So that was all the Final Destination movies, but we're not done. Let's rank them. The actual movies, not just the opening disasters. At number 5, we have The Final Destination. Visually annoying, nothing to speak of in terms of characters. Terrible. At number 4, we have number 3. I wanted to put this one a little higher just in terms of like my personal enjoyment. I did have a soft spot for it, but it's really not good. I can't in good conscience put it above 2. I had more fun watching 3 than I did part 2, but part 2 is a better movie. At number 3, we have Final Destination 2. Great opening disaster scene. I love the suicide scene. Nothing really else to speak of. You know, it's sort of bleh. At number 2, we have Final Destination 5. Just some good, lighthearted fun. Bring your kids. And then at number 1, we have Final Destination 1. It took me until just now to realize that Final Destination is a plane pun. I'm smart. Listen to my opinions. Anyway, it's the only one that's legitimately actually good. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but it is the best Final Destination movie. So I'm sitting here editing this, and Final Destination 3 is better than Final Destination 2. I'm changing the rating. I'm sorry, I got way more enjoyment out of watching part 3 than I did part 2. But we're not done still, because I'm gonna rank the opening disasters, because I think that's what most people want to talk about. So let's do it. The opening disaster scene from each of these movies, let's rank them. At number 5 is number 4. Again, just hate the visual style of this movie, the obnoxious 3D. gets in the way of it being any good. Number 4, we have Final Destination 5. I think the biggest reason people don't really talk about Final Destination 5 as being like one of the best ones is because the opening disaster is the least creative out of any of them. You know, it's just a bridge collapse. You know, I like the whole hot oil being dropped onto the dude, but other than that, it's just kind of bland. At number 3, we have the Flight 180 crash from the first movie. I do sort of give it points for being the one that started it, but the disaster itself, you know, it's just it's not as like indulgent as some of the other ones. It's just sort of a plane exploding scene. Like, could have told me this was from any movie, and I would have been like, okay, it doesn't really have a uniqueness to it like the other ones do. And then we get to the big boys. If either of these disasters are your favorite, I totally get it. But at number 2, I'm going to put the roller coaster scene. It's just so creative. You can tell they were having some fun with it. Yeah, it's a good scene. And of course, at number 1 is the highway pileup from part 2. I mean, the log truck. If you can have a part of your movie that sticks with people, and like whenever someone sees a thing in real life, they think of your movie, that's awesome, man. So I'm finally done. My throat hurts like hell, but thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't drive behind any log trucks today. I'll see you next time, where hopefully I will review 1 movie and not 5.